Thank you for attending our Spring Fling Real Estate Conversation, Coffee and Conversations. My name is Joanne DiPietro. I'm an attorney in town. And today we have Rich Carlo and Mary Jane Lightbody with us from Jack Conway. And they are going to assist with our questions that we have on rightsizing. I saw that on the internet. Instead of saying downsizing, they're saying rightsizing now, which kind of makes sense because are you rightsizing into a smaller place? Are you rightsizing into a one-level home? Are you rightsizing into your family member's home? You know, what are you doing? What's going to be right for you? So as we go through some of the information today, remember we're always asking you to come up with great questions. Any questions will do. But we want to know what's going on in your life, and if you have questions on things that are happening with you, because everybody's different. Everyone has different things going on, and everyone has different ideas. But perhaps your neighbor that's sitting next to you has a question as well, and they're not quite sure how to articulate it. We welcome all the questions. And when you do have a question, just let me know you have a question, because remember, this is being recorded, and I'll come over and give you the microphone so that everyone can hear it as well. So going back to, why we're here today, the spring market is active, and it's moving. But what do we have a problem with is we don't have inventory out there. And a lot of people don't want to move because they don't know where they're going to move to. And that's a problem for a lot of my clients. It's a problem for a lot of my friends' parents. You know, they've outgrown, or rather the house is much bigger than what they need. The kids are gone, whatever it might be, their situations are changing. But again, we don't know where we're going to go. The market value is much higher than a lot of people that bought their houses here in Walpole originally. So we need to take into consideration the proceeds from the sale and taking that over to the purchase of the other one. And that's where all the legal stuff comes in. But I'm going to let my friends take off with the real estate agent brokerage portion of it. And again, let us know if you have questions. Thank you, Mary Jane.
Good afternoon. I am Mary Jane Lightbody. I've worked with a few different agencies in my 40 some odd years. I started when I was 10. And but I've been in the same building the entire time. So when Conway came in, well, a little over, it's 2 years?
Just about 2.
Wow. So I said, whatever your name is, just don't move me. So, but they have been a phenomenal company to work with. And I only say that, it's like, yes, of course I want more business for them, but I myself am in a place where I can relate to most of you, where I'm in a fairly good-sized house, but not too big for me. But I have a huge piece of land that's too big for me. And what I would say is that there's more than the physical aspect of right-sizing, downsizing. It's just as emotional, and sometimes the emotional part is harder to deal with than the physical. So change is inevitable. So you can choose not to do anything and then have to react to the situation instead of proact to it. Or you can become over-dependent on family, friends, and it's not a good place for us to be in because it gets boring and heavy for them. So just as a realtor, I will tell you, is I've stepped back for the most part from selling, but like I'll jump in and work with Rich and let him do all the crazy stuff, and people are crazy. I'll let him do all the heavy paperwork and confrontation, and I'll come in and troubleshoot because I'm old enough to be his parent. But you have to, each one of us has a genius in us. And I think sometimes as we age, we think, what am I good for, blah, blah, blah. But we all have a genius, whether it's playing a guitar, whether it's raising a child, whether it's taking care of a pet. So compliment yourself on the fact that we are pretty smart. We've lived a long life, and we can apply what we've learned maybe to help another person, if not yourself. So we have to do it together, whatever you do. I know for myself, I'm constantly calling my brother-in-laws and then apologizing for calling them again. But there are resources out there, and if you don't have a lot of family around you, as a realtor, I will tell you, we love being your friend. We don't have to just sell your house. I have a great many, from the fire department to the police department to local builders that I know, that we can help resource for you without a charge. I'm skipping ahead here. Okay, so as far as the actual aspect of downsizing, I would say, and I've just had experience with this with friends / family members, that their legs were not working well, sight was not working so well, so they could afford to buy without selling. But, and I said, that's fine, more money for us, but why don't you think about maybe renting for a year? There's some very nice facilities, whether you like them downtown or not, but there's some modern facilities that have gyms in them, that have pools in them, that have parking, you can walk around town. So they ended up choosing to rent for a year. And he's like, well, it's $3,000 a month. And I said, well, at the end of a year, that's 30,000, 36,000, whatever. But it gives you time to find out what you really want to do. And neither one of them wanted to be a burden to their family. So this was an opportunity that they really hadn't thought about. Their house is now under agreement in Walpole, and in a year, they can make another choice. Or they may find out, for me personally, I would tell you, because I have family out of state, if I were to do that, I would probably rent for a year or two and travel, whatever my health would allow. And when their house sells, which you know where this market is, there's a lot of fun there to be able to put into another property if they want, or just travel. I've actually had several people that preferred to rent, and there's really nothing wrong with that. Just ask questions, explore, go and look at an apartment. And you might feel like you're going to throw up when you first look at it, but it's not always such a bad idea. The other thing I would say is understand your mindset. For me, I'm a paper person, so I have sticky notes or something that I write things down. I put them in my phone, yes, but I'd rather see it in black and white. But know what your mindset is like. You have an engineering background, or you have a sales background. That's who you are, and it's really good. When someone makes a suggestion to you, don't take it personal. Think about it. Write it down. It's like, well, that doesn't apply to me, but maybe I'll think about it. And don't be afraid of the future, because it's happening. It's going to happen. Also, we all have our financial abilities, or lack thereof. But I know we all like, if it's free, it's for me. But most of the time, that's unreality. I would just say, for myself, just to give you an example, I have a heating system that works, and it's older, and it's like, I'm going to get some estimates here. So I'm being proactive. Instead of waiting till the dead of winter till it doesn't work, and calling my brother-in-law, putting them into a panic, I'm going to have my resources set. Now, yes, I have my real estate background, and I know what happens when you don't plan. And I'm grateful for my real estate background. I wish I had invested in dumpsters, because if you don't plan, it's all going in the dumpster. And I can't tell you how many houses that we've sold, precious things going into these dumpsters. And you don't need that to happen. You can, the savers. I hired myself, I have a small kitchen. I hired a professional to come in. She emptied every one of my cabinets and said, this is the to-go box and this is the stay box. And that was over 2 years ago. I really like my kitchen. I could not have done it by myself. That's not my expertise. I'm a little bit of a collector. So this bracelet that I have on here is sterling silver. And my in-laws gave us 15 years ago their sterling silver set, which we used for 10 or 15 years. And I thought, and my husband thought, well, maybe we can, Tommy Dugdale does these jewelry, I don't know if you know him from Walpole, but he took the sterling silver set and created rings, hearts, bracelets, so each one of the children and the grandchildren will have a piece of the light bodies saved for years. The same with dishes. We all have dishes. I could go on and on and on, but and I won't go further. I'll let Rich talk to you about it. But use us as a resource and say, no, I'm sure our closets are full of clothes and shoes. Well, mine are. But make someone else happy and give them a gift of your Coach pocketbook or whatever it is that you have. It isn't Coach isn't popular today. What is it? Yeah. But share, and please do, as far as I am in my real estate, anyone could call me anytime and say, I'm really stuck and I know I need to prepare better. Can you advise me? And if I can't, I can find someone that will. It's worth $300 to have a stage person come in your house, not because you're going to sell it, because, and I had her come in my house. You need to repaint this, you need to do that, and you don't have to do it tomorrow, but put it on your list so when you do go to sell or move, you have a profitable situation for yourself. Questions?
They charge $300 to come in and do that.
At least. Oh, no, that's just a consultation.
It's a consultation, okay.
It's 300.
Start anything.
No. No, but it's worth it. They give you an itemized list. Keep your list and do a little bit at a time. Yes.
Moving all that stuff around and then having to move again, that doesn't do anything for me. I mean, it's a good idea, but I just can't imagine having to keep moving until you find what you really want.
Sorry.
Saved by the bells.
It's spam.
The question or the comment was about moving twice, selling your home, moving to an apartment, and figuring out where you're going to go. I think the general theme is planning, because we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know when something's going to happen. So if you start planning now for a move, which may not happen for a few years, at least it'll set you up that in the event something happens that we don't foresee, whether it's an accident or a surgery or something like that, and then you're not able to plan anymore because then you have to rely on other people. So Mary Jane is a wealth of information from helping, I don't know, tens of thousands of people probably.
I would like to think so, but
Over her years experience, that you see people just, and you know, we never want to do things that we don't really want to do, but it is a reality that eventually we're all going to have to move on one way or another. So that's what our conversation's about today too, is how to find your resources to make that plan.
and if I love art and pictures, so I had my living room painted recently. I had to take down all the pictures, but I had a friend of mine who is an artist, and she said, you're only going to put up a few pictures, and the rest There's all kinds of consignment shops, or if someone ever said, I love that, you can sell, if you can put it on Facebook Marketplace. It's so many. Let someone else enjoy it. And you're going to love your free space. You don't, once it's gone, it's gone.
Thank you.
Well, the good news with our situation, we are downsizing, but we're not going anywhere, you know. But the problem we've had is that we had to empty a room. I'm going to do a room over in my house because maintenance, all the heating, the wiring, everything. I mean, I could sell my house. My neighborhood's beautiful neighborhood house, but I can't sell it and have enough money to go someplace else.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to age in place, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So we have to empty this room that we're going to have done over. But finding someone to help us move the furniture out of the room so we can paint it and do it over and make it look aesthetically a little brighter. It's a chore, and of course, my husband's stubborn. I can do that. He's 84 years old. Don't you dare. I can barely push a vacuum cleaner. Never mind move a desk or a... So that's the problem we're having. But fortunately, I have one daughter that lives in the state. She comes up from the Cape, and she helped me.
Yeah.
And her husband helped us to do the moving.
We can find resources to help. You have to pay for it.
Oh, yes.
But-
Well, we know that. And one thing I will say is that we used the junk veterans from Norwood. They were excellent, and I would have paid them anything because
Yeah.
just take it away.
And there's also junk teens
Yes, I know
that are
them.
very, very good and very polite.
But they weren't open when my husband went
Ah.
to check them out. So we got the junk veterans.
Yeah. Thank you. That's really good.
So that was a new twist, aging in place. That's what you and Ed are doing.
And I have everything. I have a cape. I can do everything on the first floor.
Yeah.
Except my laundry. But I'll have that shipped out. Have someone come and take it and do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. No. I have a friend that she's not here today, but she does that.
Yeah. And you know what? After COVID, I have to say, after people are so willing to help out and to share. I have found that. That's why I don't want to leave my neighborhood either.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you, Linda. Anyone else have anything going on similar that you want to share and might be a good idea for someone else? Or any other questions on it?
Hurry up.
I have a question about capital gains. Like if you sell a house that has raised in value so much,
That's a great question. So the question's about capital gains when you sell your primary principal home. And, you know, we talked about this. People bought their house for $35,000 in 1968. And, thanks, Joe. And now you're going to go and sell it. When you sell your property and it's your primary principal residence, which means that's the address that's on your driver's license, and it's also the address that's on your tax returns, you get what's called a principal exemption of $250,000 per person. So if you have a spouse, that's a $500,000 exemption. So if you bought your property for $200,000, you can bump up. The capital gain has to do with what your basis is. Your basis is what the number on your deed was. So if it's $200,000 and you're a couple, you can sell it for at least $700,000 and not pay a capital gains tax. Now, I'm sure you all have some sort of tax advisor. A good tax advisor can also tell you how to bring up that basis a little bit more with any improvements that you've made on the home, major improvements, a roof, new windows, a new garage, whatever it might be. Siding, anything that improves the property. That will also bring your basis up. So that's one thing that you do want to think about when you are getting ready to sell.
Question on the improvements. I was interested when improvements, and if you've lived in your house so many 30, 40, 50 years, you've spent an enormous amount of money improving. How far is the look back? I mean, I have bills for 20 years. I mean, if you did a roof 20 years ago, you almost need to replace one again. So does that value?
I can't answer that question specifically because that would be a tax advisor. But you can most certainly, as long as you have the receipts, make sure you keep those receipts. Talk about it with your tax advisor to get yourself that step up.
Yeah, you want to make sure that you keep all records of everything you've done over the years, because it's important when you get into that situation.
They're gonna prorate it.
Any other questions on the sale?
What happens if the house was built in 1958 and there are no records anymore of any improvements? See, it's not my house, it's my parents'.
Oh, okay. So the question is, did you inherited it?
My mother's still alive at 99.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So if you don't have records, again, that's really a question for a tax advisor, and it's individual for everyone. But you do need to have proof. Obviously, if you're going to take an exemption or whatever it might be, you need to have that proof when you're filing your tax returns. And that all has to do with on your individual 1040s when you file it. You sell your house in 2025. It's in April of 2026 when you're filing your tax returns that you're looking at that capital gains on the basis. And you have to have the proof.
Or inherit, she's gonna probably
58 for
inherit.
less than $16,000.
She live in it?
Go ahead, why don't you repeat that so everyone hears it?
They bought their house back in 1958 for less than $16,000. This house is in Watertown, and it's well over $700,000. So there would be such a big capital gains because my father is passed away, and it's just my mother.
Oh, he's still alive.
Right, right. So I don't know whether to sell the house while she's alive, and that would.
That's a great question. So the question is, someone that's going to incur a large capital gain, is it better to sell the property, I mean, aside from her health and what she needs, is it better to sell the property now or to wait? Well, the market, I'm going to leave it to the experts, but it depends on what the market's doing too. Because if you can get a larger amount, kind of offsets it a little bit. Because she's starting so low. Yeah.
They've done is that the upstairs was not finished, so my father finished it.
So the house got finished, yeah. And they probably don't have the records.
No, and they did put in central air. So other than that, that's the only improvement.
Yeah, yeah. Rich, do you want to talk about?
Well, I had a question for you. Would that matter depending if it's in a trust or how it's set up? Would that have an impact?
3 names, my mother, my sister, and myself.
When you say it's in a trust under 3 names, are you, the 3 of you are trustees or the 3 of you are the owners? Okay, so who has 100% beneficial interest? Your mother?
Yes.
Okay, so it's the mother's basis, which is the $16,000.
Because she wanted her name put on there, because she feared that once we put the house in trust, that we would throw her out.
That's a common theme, by the way. That, and they started hiding hundreds around the building in the home. That's very common.
She's very stubborn.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah. So, do you want to talk a little bit about expenses when selling a home, including the capital gains?
Sure.
Yes,
I just
Linda.
want to give Carol some information about a friend of mine was researching a house. If you go to the Watertown Historical Society, they can tell you the history of the house.
It was brand new when they bought it.
It'll be historical. It could be historical at this point.
No, but they can search the I know the Walpole Historical Society. They can tell you, they can give you background information almost in any house in the town. You might try it. I mean,
When we moved in 1958, the house was not completed because the builder went bankrupt.
That's
And
common.
the two rooms up, the room in the two rooms and a bathroom were not finished. So, back in 58, it was brand new. You know. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions on that? No?
You should talk to a tax advisor because you might get a step up in basis if you waited until she died.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to get into.
That might
Yeah.
be to your
That's-
benefit too.
And it depends on who the ownership,
It sounds terrible, but there's a different deduction for death
and that's,
rather than.
exactly. So if you remain the owner, if your mom remains, that's why I was asking you about the trust. If she owns that 100% beneficial interest in the realty trust that owns that property, then upon someone's death, there is a step up in basis. Remember, we talk about revocable and irrevocable trusts? So long as it's in a revocable trust, which means you have control over it, you can mortgage it, you can lease it, you can sell it, you can do whatever you want with the property, then that basis is allowed. So, hypothetical, when she passes,
There's no capital gains when she passes.
well, no, it gives a step up in basis, right, for the people that inherit it, whether by the laws of intestacy or by way of her will or her trust. Now, some people want to protect their home from creditors, i.e. a nursing home, so they move it into an irrevocable trust. Moving it meaning you gift it over to that irrevocable trust. You lose dominion and control. You can't sell it, you can't mortgage it, you can't lease it, you can't do anything with it. But when you gift it to that trust, because you didn't get consideration back, like if you sold your house to a third party, you get consideration back, the trust gets the same basis. So if your mom's house, as a hypothetical, was moved over into an irrevocable trust during her lifetime, that irrevocable trust has that basis, and you and your sisters would have incurred a capital gain when that irrevocable trust sold the property. That gets into the whole, I'm sorry? Well, yeah, there's a look back on the irrevocable trust too. So that's, when we talk about different types of trusts, we talk about the pros and the cons, and sometimes you want to protect your home from a creditor, which is a fabulous idea. However, if you lose dominion and control over it and all of a sudden you need a new roof, you can't tap into the equity in that house. You can't get a home equity loan. So sometimes that's not a good product for people.
We did have to get a home equity loan in order to keep her in her home. For her care, she had personal care 24/7, but we went through $325,000 of care for her, and she had fallen twice with care, so now she's in a facility. So the house remains empty, basically, so we did get the equity loan based on her house.
Wait to sell the house, then you don't have to worry about
Once she passes. She's 99.
If you can't, God love her. Yeah. Any other questions on that little segment of selling a house that's in a trust? No?
Oh, all right, my turn. Well, thanks to everybody for coming. My name is Rich Carlo. I work at Jack Conway in Walpole with Mary Jane. I've lived in Walpole now 18 years. I have 3 boys, all in the school systems. I've been selling real estate since 2001, so I know the industry pretty well. Mary Jane did a phenomenal job, like going through the process at the beginning, and it does not get much realer than what she's explaining. And I think the biggest takeaway is going to be that everyone's situation is unique. No one's going to have the same situation. Like in the folders that we handed out to you, there's different scenarios of like reasons why you want to downsize, why you need to downsize, what to do after you downsize. And I think we've kind of touched on a lot of that just by some of the questions that were already asked. So I'm not going to bore you, go through everything again. But I mean, the biggest thing is to have a plan, understand like the reality of when you have to make a decision. It's not always going to be a comfortable decision, but, you know, get together with your family, assess what's going on. I mean, I have some elderly family that are doing the same thing. They're, like she mentioned earlier, they're aging in place. They have all the services they need. They're doing everything the right way. They have plenty of support, and they're going to be in a good situation. I just feel like sometimes people don't make the right decision soon enough, and then it's, you're in a situation where you're kind of under the gun to do something that if you planned the right way, it would have worked out a lot easier. Downsizing, even going to an apartment for a year, it's not the best thing to do, but you know what? You're taking a step in the direction where you're downsizing some of your materials, the belongings that you don't need. And it's one step, towards a direction of like, I don't have to make a decision to buy something. Maybe you buy a condo, maybe you don't want a condo. If you rent somewhere for a year or 2 years, then you can make an easier, decision whether you want to buy a ranch, you want to add on to one of your children's homes. That's very common these days. People adding on, converting space into, what do they
AUD.
AUD.
Yeah.
Those are very
Accessory,
popular now
yeah.
too. So there's a lot of options out there. I mean, we're here, we're available, happy to answer any questions about the actual selling process, what we do when we come out and meet with you, just to help you, assess your property, give you an analysis of like the value, which is a huge, part of what you're going to do. We can help guide you through the whole process from start to finish. We can help you find the right people to go through your stuff, declutter what you want, what you don't want. We're just, happy to help. We're local, we're in the town, we all live in the town, so we'd be, very happy to help in any way.
Could even do a tiny house.
Yeah. Like,
Where's the land?
one question, I'm coming. Yeah, what do you want?
Could you possibly explain and help us understand the current trend on accessory dwelling units? Now it's state law that we can have them in our community, and it's not town law. The state law oversees or overrules the local law. But I've had a couple of people, good things, bad things, when they've tried to build one, or they're building one, or they're trying to make their home, and they have to jump through 1,000 hoops. And I'm wondering how it impacts your business, your real estate, and have you noticed a surge, or have you been involved in any of it? Thank you.
Well, I actually, my husband and I put an ADU in our home. My husband is an only child, so guess who's going to take care of his parents when they get old? So I said, let's move him up from Providence. So it is, you're right, Linda, it is Massachusetts law, and it's to help with the housing shortage. That's really what it's all about. Because getting an in-law, a permit for an in-law, was actually more hoops, believe it or not. And there's some neighborhoods that don't allow in-laws. You know, there's a lot of different variables from the outside of the particular circumstances of the home that would not allow an in-law. Especially if you had a septic system that didn't allow for another bedroom, and then you had to spend another $50,000 on a new septic. There was a lot involved. So the state did come up with this idea. The general idea is you can build an accessory dwelling no larger than 900 feet, 900 square feet, or something certain percentage of the size of your home. It actually, we had a good experience with Mr. Crowley in the building inspector's office. I do have to tell you that. It went very nicely. It went very smoothly. And it is one of the ways that I have a lot of clients coming to me and saying either we're going to sell our home to our children and put on an accessory dwelling for us, or we're going to sell our home and go live with our children and put an accessory dwelling on there. Now that is definitely, talk about right-sizing. You have to make sure that you can live with these people, but that's something that's particular for everyone, you know, what they're going to do. And that's part of the process too. When you sit down and you take 5 minutes and you have to brainstorm, where do you want to be? What do you need? Again, circumstances can change like that. And your circumstances could change that, you know, you're living in you're 99 and you're living in your house, and then all of a sudden you need 24-hour care. So the first thing to do is to explore different options. And like Rich said, the first thing to do is to get a market analysis of your home, because you need to find out what am I going to come out with on the back end, roughly, you know. What's your home worth? People ask me, what do you think my house is worth? I said, whatever someone's going to pay for it. That's exactly what your house is worth. But they can help you and educate you. This is a good time of year to sell. There's not a lot of inventory out there. This might be a good time for you to start thinking about. And if you already have decided where you're going, then you're kind of golden right now, because this is a good time to sell because the inventory is low. It's Economics 101, supply and demand. So that's really where you start there, and then they give you a wonderful listing plan on listing your property and how they're going to market it. And then that's usually when I get involved, when offers are made. And we look through the offer, we make sure that all the material terms and conditions that are in that offer are suitable for you as the seller. And once you accept that offer, that's it. You're not talking to anybody else, because then we're in contract world and you can't be taking multiple offers. After that, we go through a period, and then the buyer may do inspections, whether it might be home inspections, bug inspections, Title V, radon inspections, mom and dad's approval, the lender's approval, if they have to get a mortgage. And then once all of those contingencies, which are things that have to happen for that buyer to perform, once those contingencies are completed, then you're locked in and that buyer is good to go. And that's sometimes when people really then take the steps to figure out where they're going to go next, because they know that that buyer is solid and they can put a deposit down on something else or put a deposit down for an apartment. And then we get to the closing. And once we get to the closing, the seller has to give good, clear title, which means if you've lived in your house since 1935 or whatever, 1953, we have to make sure that all those mortgages or whatever it might be, any liens that are against the property, that those are clear. Because a buyer accepts good title. They expect it and they accept it, which means if 2 weeks later they want to sell the property, they need to know that there's no liens that are left over from a prior seller. So that's like a synopsis of the process. It's a fast process. So the preparation that you're doing now by coming here and thinking about what you're doing and going home and reading through the pamphlets of giving you ideas is really important, because like Rich just said, you don't want to wait that you're under the gun that you have to do it, because that process goes very, very fast. For most people, their home is the biggest asset that they own, and it gets scary that you're moving so fast. And sometimes you're selling and you're buying on the same day, and you're moving from one place to, I heard a yeah over here, and you're moving from one place to another in one day. So the whole theory of cleaning out, purging, getting rid of things, downsizing, not just the physical area, but all of your personal possessions is really important to do. Any questions in particular that you want to know about the process?
One thing just to add to the ADU things, it does increase value. And when we're going out now and doing analyses on houses, we take that into consideration. A lot of properties might have like a 2-car garage that somebody might want to convert into that type of, living thing, arrangement, whatever.
Yeah, if you spend
So
the
it's
money to do
definitely there.
it's adding value to
Yes.
the property.
Am I under the correct assumption that it doesn't have to be used for a family member?
That is correct.
So I just want
As opposed to an in-law, it had to be a relative.
oh, it does. Oh, how do you do, I'm confused now. Because if it's an accessory dwelling unit, whether it's attached or detached, you could actually rent it to anybody you wanted.
Yeah, it depends also the district that your house is in, and there's a couple other variables there.
That's covered by the state law too, we'd have to.
I think it might come to like local zoning and what you can
Yeah.
and can't do. But the ability to add it on, or I mean, it does increase value. Or not even if you didn't like convert it, but just somebody having the ability to take like a 2-car garage and convert it into one of those units, it will add value. Everyone's taking that into consideration now.
Can I just say something
Yes.
regarding that? There's still a lot of confusion. There's still a lot of confusion between the local ordinances and the state. So, for instance, I have a barn that's very big. I'm on a septic system. So I could, and I have looked into it, convert the barn into living space. But in order to do that, I'm in the primary aquifer area. I'd have to put in a septic. You could try digging a cesspool. I mean, you have to know what surrounds you and what the laws are. And you are going to run headlong into the town, because there's still so much to learn about it.
No, I just wanted to know, because I guess I can't get my building kind of the work proper.
Oh, this is about Linda patting her pockets?
I've heard about that.
Yeah, a lot of people are trying to rent their homes for that. Yeah.
A question about septic systems. I know that upon sale, it has to be certified or
Inspected.
or
It has to
Title V
pass inspection.
or improved. What about inheritance? If it's inherited from parent to child, does
If it's an
Title V enter into it?
No, it doesn't. However, if the younger generation has inherited it and they want to get a mortgage to bring it up to date, then the lender would ask for, verification that it's passed Title V, that it's passed the test. Whenever you get a mortgage, it's all about protection.
To mortgage or whatever, but if it's just passed free and
Yeah, you can sell a house to a family member, and under the Code of Mass Regulations, it's not required,
Thank you.
unless a bank is involved.
Thank you.
So if I sell my house and it fails Title V, the buyer does not pay. I have to pay before I sell it to the seller.
Well, yes, if you're the seller of the property and the Title V inspection shows that it does not pass, yes, the seller is responsible to bring it to code, unless there's a negotiation. But under the law, yes. Under the CMRs, which is the Code of Mass Regulations, the seller is responsible to provide a working septic system, and that's health and safety.
Yes, you haven't addressed reality trust. What's the difference?
Realty
Realty.
trust, or realty trust is a revocable trust. like the trust that we generally, it depends, I'd have to read a document, but a realty trust holds real estate, but it's the same thing. You have the trustees up top, and then you have the beneficial interest underneath. Same thing, revocable trust. One in the back first, Fran.
No questions for you.
Hi, it just occurred to me, since we're talking about housing and what you're going to do, there is a taxation aid committee here in Walpole, and there are funds available. Some of you may be aware of it and some not. But if you're over 52, 62, and your income is a certain level and you have a limited income, you can apply for this in every fiscal year. And so the fiscal year goes July 1st to June 30th. So right now, with the May tax bill, you could apply if you make the qualifications for it. And it's $1,000 for the year. And then once July comes, you can apply again. And we haven't really had any applications for a couple of years, but there'll be a letter in the Hometown Weekly the next week or two. So look for that in case you'd qualify for that. It's a help. It's not a ton, but it's a help if you're going to stay in your home.
That's great. Thank you, Kathy. That's great information. We have a question right here.
Okay, so get that, and the person passes away, and they have received for what, 6 years, $1,000 credit. When the house is sold, does that money have to go back?
No,
It's
it's just taken off your tax bill for that year.
Oh, it's not
No,
proactive
no,
to the sale of the house.
right.
What happens if you have a cesspool and you want to try to sell your house? Are they outdated, not allowed, or how does that work?
A cesspool. Same thing. It has to be.
Every town's different. Some towns will.
Town's different.
So some towns will allow a cesspool if it passes the Title V test. You can keep it. No, I don't think so.
I don't think they'll pass.
So if you have a cesspool in Walpole, I think it needs to be upgraded to a septic.
I have one. We just can, but you can.
Do you have town sewer near you?
You don't have town sewer in your street? Oh.
Yeah. Talk to me, because
I don't know. You know what? There might
Very
be. Yeah, the
inexpensive.
Board of Health would know. I would reach out to Walpole Board of Health.
We kind of sort of touched a little bit on it. That was, one of my questions was, when you talked about contingencies and also maybe as is,
if you
I
get a
don't know,
cash
there's,
buyer.
right,
Yeah.
like those are kind of,
A cash buyer, they're willing to take it on. It's,
right,
it is what
because
it is, but you can't get a mortgage.
we have, right, we have kind of talked a few things around, and one of the things was that I could replace it, it would be a cost, and it's pricey. It's not like.
No. Yeah, no, they're expensive.
Yes, so I could, if I did that and then someone came in and then they wanted to put additions or something on the house, that septic system could not be conducive to what they want as well.
If they add more bedrooms.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering if it would be better to let the sleeping dog lie and let somebody else do all the work and kind of take the money and run. But I don't know if that would lower.
Well,
That's kind of where.
There's ways to do it too. Like banks will allow to put the money in escrow and close, and then let the buyer do the improvement. But it's a negotiation.
Yeah.
That's what it'll come down to.
It's a negotiation.
I would have to legally be careful what I did and when I choose to sell, if I went that route.
Not when you sell, but I think the best thing to do is to use a real estate agent, use the people that you know to see who wants to purchase the property. And the same type of thing, who's in the market, who's out in the market that wants to purchase the property. You know, there's other features for your home that people may be looking for, and they may be willing to purchase it that way. Like Rich said, someone purchases it for cash, then there's no bank out there making sure that their collateral is 100% perfect, but there are banks that do allow escrows, money to be held in escrow. They buy it that way, and then the escrow funds are used to improve the property. So you just have a little bit more of a hump on selling the property. But again, there's people out there, and there's not a lot of houses up.
Yeah.
So
There's people that I know
But-
that could advise you and.
Yeah. But also get a price on what it costs to put, okay. I did a 3-bedroom for 13.5. Septic. Do you have a lot of ledge in your yard?
Oh, excuse me.
The Register of Deeds was here recently, within the past year, and his recommendation was that we should go down and check to see if there's any open things that haven't been closed out, loans or whatever. Is that something that should be done before you're thinking of selling, or do you recommend that up to the law office to do that?
Great question. So when we have a seller representation file in our office, the first thing that we do is a current owner and even look at the prior owner. Do a rundown. That's what Bill was referring to. A rundown of the property to see what liens were there. A mortgage to Walpole Cooperative Bank, was that discharged? Oh, it wasn't? Okay, then you need to get that. So that's the first thing that we do because, like I said, there's a short period of time. Generally, it's 45 days from the date that that offer is signed to the closing. So we tell our clients, hey, look in the bottom drawer of your nightstand because you may have the Shawmut Bank discharge of mortgage there. If not, we have to get a new one. So yes, that's good advice to have someone look at the title to see if there are any liens still sitting out there that need to be closed.
Are you saying, I guess I don't know if I'm hearing you correctly, are you saying to leave it for you to look at it your own, but if you don't have it, should we do this now ahead of time with the anticipation of selling in the future?
Sure you can, absolutely. Yep, 100%. If you're savvy with the Registry of Deeds, it's online and you can see the grantor grantee index. It's actually not too difficult. If you go on, you'll see your mortgage. Then you go over to the abstract, you click on the abstract, and if there's a discharge there, you're all set. You're welcome. Great question. Anything else on selling your property? Anybody worried about selling your property? Anybody thinking about putting it on the market? Everybody just gonna leave it for your family and when you're gone, see you later? All right, well, thank you so much. Do you have anything else, Rich?
No, thanks for coming. I got plenty, yeah.
He said he was all set, Pat. Thank you, though. Thank you for attending, and as always, reach out if you need anything. Have a great afternoon.